Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at this next snow event, which is going to be impacting areas in the I-95 corridor, basically from Washington D.C. to all the way to Boston, and of course areas interior of there will also be seeing quite a bit of snowfall. It's one of your first snowfalls in quite a while for many of these areas from Boston, south and west. For many of these areas, you haven't seen snowfall in quite a while, and this can be something that's really going to end your snow drought for many of these locations. We're going to be going through a couple of the models, the GFS, the European, and also the NAM 12 model, and going through what they're showing as far as their snowfall and their rainfall placement, because you will have a bit of mixing issues with this event as well. We're going to be going over your National Weather Service snowfall forecast and kind of showing you what they're thinking. Of course, National Weather Service, they are pretty good at forecasting the weather, of course, so we're going to take a look at that as well. It gives us a good idea of what usually is going to happen, and usually they're pretty accurate with what does happen. So we're going to start off here with the National Weather Service. We do have some wind advisories here for areas into the southern half of Maine through all of New Hampshire and into eastern parts of Massachusetts there. Now this system is going to be riding from, right now it's stalled out over areas from Louisiana to Georgia, and it's going to be moving its way to the north and east. One of the first nor'easters we've seen in quite a while that's kind of moved north, but this is going to be kind of moving a little bit farther off the sea, and it's going to be merging with this northern piece of the jet stream, which is why you're going to see some snowfall with this, because you will have a bit of cold air left over. We do see some flood watches there. I covered the severe weather yesterday, so you can go check that out on my video that I did post yesterday. Flood watches are in effect in this green from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and into Florida as well. We even have some tornado watches in effect for southern Georgia and yes, just for southern Georgia, anywhere in those yellows, seeing some tornado watches, and I do think they should have been spread a little bit further to the south there, probably covering northern Georgia, northern Florida as well, where I do think you're going to also see quite a bit of severe weather. Now, in anticipation of this event, we are seeing some winter weather advisories or winter storm watches here for areas into West Virginia. We also see some red flag warnings there for areas into Kansas, Nebraska, and into Colorado. Wind advisories for the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, and into Nebraska there. Now, moving on to areas into Montana, we do see some high wind warnings and some high wind watches in effect there for areas into Montana. Also, some winter weather advisories and some red flag warnings underneath that for the areas into Montana and Wyoming. Now, here is your surface analysis map, and this is going to show you where your low pressures and high pressures are. Now, we have this low pressure, again, it's situated over the deep south. It's currently bringing some thunderstorm activity to areas south of here, so mainly for this area that was under that tornado watch. For northern Florida, southern Georgia, really going to be the bullseye with this severe weather event. You have this low pressure over southernmost Alabama, and it's going to be moving to the north here because it is going to be it really doesn't have too much blocking. It's going to be trying to get away or kind of curve around the high pressure that's over areas in the east of Florida there in the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to be moving to the north and kind of moving into the northeast, and it's going to be again producing some snowfall to those areas. So here is what the European model is showing now. This is your high resolution European model. We're going to be going through this and what it's showing. So this would be by early on Friday, and you're seeing some rain developing, mainly some snow there for the Appalachians there of West Virginia, westernmost Maryland, a little bit of mixing through Pennsylvania, and then getting into upstate New York. You're seeing some snowfall there according to the European. Now getting to Friday night, all rain for many of the I-95, for much of the I-95 corridor. A little bit of snow starting to transition there. You're seeing that cold air. Really, you're not going to have too much cold air. If you had a bit more cold air, this could definitely be much more of a major event, but you don't have that much cold air. Your blue line indicates where your 32-degree line is at the surface. Of course, you have some colder air up aloft, and that's why it's snowing even if you're outside of that blue line. But many areas are not in this blue line. They're seeing a little bit of snowfall, but notice how far north that is. It's really for the higher elevations of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and getting into interior Maine, where you're seeing that 32-degree or lower temperatures. So definitely a very warm atmosphere that you do have for early March. Should be a lot colder. You're starting to see a little bit of snowfall there develop for areas into the northeast, for areas into Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, through Vermont, and getting through upstate New York, northernmost New Jersey and into Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Maryland, all seeing some snowfall at this point, according to the European model. This would be by Saturday morning now, and then it starts to dissipate. Now, notice how you have a pretty wrapped up low pressure system that would be pretty much straight east of about southern Virginia, and if you move straight east from there, your low pressure system would be somewhere right around this area. You're seeing, again, your snowfall on the northern side. So if this were to move a couple 100 miles to the north and west, that's where areas in the I-95 corridor would be in that snow belt, and that's what you've really been lacking the past 2 years, and that's why you've been in a big snow drought for many of you guys throughout the I-95 corridor. Just some leftover sprinkles and showers of rain and snow left over as you get later on Saturday. So here's what the GFS model is showing as far as its system. Now, the GFS model has this northern stream, the jet stream, and you have that over areas into the UP of Michigan and northern Michigan. And then you have this southern area, which you see kind of move up the coast. You have, according to the GFS, heavy snowfall breakout through upstate New York and through Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and getting through Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ohio, seeing some pretty good snowfall. Light to moderate snowfall for the most part over these areas. Your low pressure system well offshore, so you're not going to have too much of a impact from this low pressure system. It's so far out to sea that really it's not going to impact this too much in terms of precipitation. Now, this is going to drive how this system does play out. It's really all you have is this little frontal system that's moving by, and on the backside has a bit of cold air, and that's why you're seeing some snowfall develop on the backside, and that's why you will see some snowfall out of this event. Now, as we continue, you start to see it dissipates even because you don't have enough energy. You have a lot of energy, but it's just very far out to sea. It's you see all these dark blues that are heading straight for southeasternmost Canada. Those areas will get pummeled with this snow event, but areas in the northeast really won't get too much out of this because it is so far out to sea. Now, here's the NAM 12CAM model's perspective on what's going to happen. The NAM 12CAM model is a higher resolution model, so it is going to be definitely has a bit of a colder bias, but I don't think since we're only about 48 hours out from this event, I really don't think it's going to be too different from what the NAM is showing, and the NAM isn't too awfully cold with this scenario, so I think the NAM probably has one of the better handles on this event. It shows by late Friday, you're seeing this band of snowfall, this stick of snowfall and rainfall moving through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and upstate New York there, and it's going to just continue. You see more snowfall start to break out over southern New England, and then getting through areas into upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and then back through areas into the Appalachians, seeing some snowfall there as well. Now, this would be by early on Saturday, really before the sun's out probably, and you're seeing some snowfall starting to really wrap up. Most of your energy is already off to sea already, and this would be by Saturday morning, and then just some sprinkles left of some snowfall there as you get later on Saturday. Probably this would be probably around 10 or 11 o'clock Eastern time by this time. Now, here's what the European is showing as far as its snowfall, and it's showing some snowfall potentially coating your grass, coating your deck. Really nothing that's going to be too substantial here. It might just cause a little bit of difficult travel over some of these areas, through areas into the northeast. And as you get into this lighter gray, you're about 1/10 of an inch to 2 inches in the darker grays, 2 to 6 inches in the blues, and then 6 to about 10 inches in the purples. So you're seeing scattered 2 to 6 inches through upstate New York, Vermont, and Pennsylvania, mainly for those higher elevation regions. Now, you see maybe a coating as you get east of there, and just a trace for the most part, trace to a dusting over many of these areas. And then as you get to West Virginia, eastern West Virginia, very mountainous region, could pick up over 6 inches of snowfall. Now, here is what the GFS is showing, and it's showing even a little bit more suppressed look from this. You see, here's what the European is showing, here's what the GFS is showing. So the GFS definitely pushed a little bit further to the north, not showing as much of that coastal low pressure entity kind of dragging its energy further to the west. So you're not getting as much of an event over here for areas into the I-95 corridor. You're seeing a more scattered 2 to 6 inches over areas into northern or into upstate New York, and then into central areas of Vermont, and then into eastern West Virginia, western Maryland, and southwestern Pennsylvania. Could be seeing 2 to 6 inches, maybe even a little bit more as you get into those higher elevations. Now, here's what the NAM 12CAM model is showing as far as its snowfall very lackluster here. Maybe a couple inches through northeast Pennsylvania, south central New York. You're seeing a couple inches potentially from the NAM, but definitely in general, if I had to pick a model, I would probably pick the NAM 12 cam model. I don't think it's gonna be a huge event if for areas into the I-95 corridor. I think you're gonna get maybe a couple flakes in the air, and potentially they could stick if your temperatures are a bit colder. And I think southern New England, central New England could definitely get maybe a coating to a dusting of an inch. But definitely, I think you have to get a little bit more interior to get your bigger snowfall accumulations of about 2 to 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 inches. And then as you get to West Virginia, definitely going to be the bigger winners, those higher elevations, definitely helping to aid with some of that, getting about 6 to 8, maybe 9 inches. Now, just for reference, here's what the National Weather Service is putting out as far as its snowfall amounts. And you're seeing generally a coating. The National Weather Service putting a little bit there for southern New England, but other than that, not too much. And it's mainly confined to the interior northeast there, where you guys have been getting quite a bit of snowfall this winter season. Now, that is going to wrap up the video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turn on notifications as I do make these videos daily. Anyways, guys, that was Eli the Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.